Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. In today's video, we are going to be talking about my May wrap up. When it comes to May and my reading month, May might have been the worst reading month I have had in recent years. May was a terrible reading month for me. If I were to do that challenge that people do, reading until you get a 5-star, I probably would have had to read like 10 books before I got a 5-star. Now, I will say, let's see if I can hold all of the books up. I totally forgot that this is something I attempt to do in every single wrap up. If I could hold all the books up, I believe I read 15 books this month. I didn't count because I've been so over it. The only reason why I am doing this wrap up at this current moment is because I want to put the books I'm gonna keep on my bookshelf and then get rid of the books that I don't, and they've been sitting here forever, so it's time for me to get through them. This month, May was a long month. It may feel like a long month for you guys. It felt like a long month for me, but I think it was my reading that made this month feel so goddamn long. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to give very brief synopsis of these books. I'm going to tell you if I enjoyed them, if I didn't. Some of them I'll tell you why I didn't enjoy them. Some of them you might just have to go back and look at the video and see why I didn't enjoy them. Let's start with Rootless. Rootless is a story about these Black people from the UK whose marriage is in turmoil. And in order for us as the reader to find out why their marriage is in turmoil, we go back in time and hear about their marriage, hear about how they met, the stuff that has happened in their relationship and what led them to this moment where their marriage might be crumbling. This book felt like a debut novel. It is a debut novel. It reads like a debut novel. It doesn't read like an actual story. The characters are quite weak. You're never really drawn into the story. You never really feel like there's stakes, and you definitely do not feel invested in these characters as people or as a couple. So when things happen, it feels convenient. It feels contrived. It just wasn't interesting. I ended up giving this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. You can give it a 3, but regardless, I feel nothing for this book. This is not a book that I necessarily feel like I need to revisit. More so, I feel like I need to read more stories from this author in the future because I feel like their books can only get stronger from here because there was potential here. I think someone different writing this book could have been for me. The next book that we have is Your Driver is Waiting. I picked this up from the library. This is a book that I really wanted to get to this year. This book is about a rideshare driver. This rideshare driver is going through a lot, and they end up in a relationship with another woman, and something really, I wouldn't say tragic, but something really interesting. This person who is her lover does something that really breaks their trust, and our main character has to figure out what they're going to do with this information, knowing that someone they care about really kind of fucked their life up. And all the woes that she goes through as a rideshare driver along the way. I did not give that a good synopsis. I'm going to try that again for you guys. We have a rideshare driver who is going through all the ups and downs of being a rideshare driver. They're telling you about all of that. And then one day while she's ride sharing, while she's driving, she meets this woman, and her and this woman get into a very toxic relationship. And the woman ends up doing something unforgivable to the main character and the people around the main character. And that's our story. This also did not work for me. I think this is one of the books I like the least of May. This book is advertised as like this dark humor, funny, witty, taxi driver, type book, but it's not funny. I don't find it witty, and I also don't understand what the message of this book is. I don't understand what you as the reader are supposed to take from this book. This book feels really flat. Like the characters aren't interesting. It feels like somewhere around the story is a good story, but us following this character, there isn't a good story. So no, this didn't work for me. I did not enjoy this book. I will be taking it back to the library, and I feel no need to get my own copy, except for the fact this is a gorgeous cover. Let's move on. Next book we have is Wrong Place, Wrong Time. This would have to go in my most disappointing reads of May. So in this book, we have a mother. This mother feels like something bizarre is going to happen. She just has a feeling that everything is not on the up and up, but she needs her son to come home. Her son is running late. He's not home yet. She hasn't heard anything from him. She's like, my son's not home and I feel funny. Like I have a gut instinct that something is not up. So she goes to the window to see if she can see her son. And she sees her son and she gets happy, like, whoa, my son is here. But then she sees someone walking near her son and she gets this feeling that something bad is about to happen to her son. Well, something bad does happen to her son, but the son is the one who does the bad thing. He kills someone. The son stabs and kills someone and is arrested. And that starts our main character on a time journey. She goes back in time to figure out why her son would kill someone. This book, the problem with this book is it is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. I have never liked a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. I don't know what it is. Me and Reese just do not see eye to eye. And when it comes to thrillers and mysteries, that's where me and Reese Witherspoon really don't see eye to eye. Reese's book club loves these thrillers, they try to teach you like a bigger message or you're supposed to learn something bigger. These, I like to say boring thrillers. They're boring. They're a little melodramatic. Reese loves those and I do not. This book tried to teach me about family and it tried to teach me about the relationship between a husband and a son and a wife and a son, a wife and a husband and a mother and a son. And I didn't feel anything of it. And also, many times, I don't think this book also makes sense. I am so sorry. There are moments in this book that don't make sense. And I don't know how this book is getting such rave reviews when there are like going back in time. Like when you're dealing with like time stories, like there's always going to be things that are a little clunky, but there's things that happen when our main character goes back in time that just aren't plausible. Like they're not plausible the way certain characters act at different points of the story. So this was not for me. The mystery whodunit is also not that interesting. I'm going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. Let's move on to Cersei. In this book, we are following Cersei, a part of like Greek mythology. Basically, Cersei is banished. They find out that Cersei has some like powers that she's not supposed to have, and she does something that she's not supposed to do, and Cersei gets banished by everyone. Her parents want nothing to do with her. Zeus wants nothing to do with her, so she gets banished. And in this book, we are following Cersei as she tries to find her power, try to find love, try to find family and all of that. That is Cersei. I really enjoyed this book. I literally forgot I read this book last month. It feels like so much long ago, but then I see here I did read it. I really like this book so much that I'm getting my own copy of this book. I really enjoyed this book. Something about this book was just very feminist to me. It was just very very you can overcome. I don't know. Something about a good, you can overcome anything. You can find your power. You can be resilient. Those stories get to me. And that's what Cersei was for me. I enjoyed the slow ride. I am very much so a plot character person. I love a deep, juicy plot with deep, juicy characters. I will read a 500-page book if it means I get to learn so much about these characters and get intertwined in a nice, juicy plot. And this was slow, but I enjoyed the slowness. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. I said this in the video I was talking about this book. My only enjoyment would get taken away is the fact that I'm not big on Greek mythology. Never have been. Never went through that Greek mythology phase. Like, just never was me. So, but I still give it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that we have was the Lily Reads book club pick for May. Don't Go Baking My Heart. Now, this is a sequel to the book Sweet Hand by N.G. Peltier. And in this book, we are following the brother of the guy in Sweet Hand, and we're following the worker of the girl in Sweet Hand, like the employee. And basically, this guy right here, Devon, I think his name is Devon, he needs help with a baking competition for his work because he wants to get a promotion at his job, but he doesn't like to participate in the work activity, so So he's like, I'm going to participate in the work activities and hope that gives me a leg up on getting a promotion. But it's a baking competition and he's never baked before. So he gets the help of our girl right here. Her name is Reba. He gets the help of Reba and they start on this baking journey trying to get him to win this baking competition. I enjoyed this book. I really, really did. I did have my gripes with this book, but I have my gripes with every book I read. I love the dynamic between this. I love whimsical and serious. That's one of my favorite like dynamics when it comes to relationships and romance novels. I love them. I loved Reba as a character. I love when my protagonist in romance books, when it's the heroine, I love when she's rambunctious and feisty and fun and extroverted, because so often we get books that are like on the total opposite scale of that, and I don't like it. I do not like the mousy, shy main characters. I've had enough of it. And so I enjoyed Reba. I enjoyed Devon and his like anxiety and the dealing with the anxiety. I enjoyed that. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. The next book that we have is this sucker, Babble. So in this book, we are following an Asian boy. He's a boy when the book starts, and then we follow him throughout his journey. Basically, this guy comes to him and he's like, we need your help. We need your help. I want to bring you to Europe, and basically I want you to learn the ways of English, learn the English language, all of that, and then eventually you can go off to Oxford and you can help the society by learning all of this stuff. You're bilingual, all of that stuff. So he goes there and then he gets to Babble. When he's at Babble, he learns all of this information. He meets a bunch of people. He makes a bunch of friends, but he realizes things are not what they seem. And maybe what he's trying to like help is not the thing that he should be helping. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I definitely explained that terribly because a lot happens in this book. This book was not for me. I am comfortable saying that this book is simply not for me. I think there's people who love this book. I don't doubt that they love this, and I don't knock them for loving it. It's not for me. I enjoyed all the things that I learned in this book. I learned so much in this book. It was almost like being in an English class. I learned so much, but the overall plot really left no impression on me. At the very beginning, I really wasn't enjoying it. And then in the end, I learned to appreciate it. Some things started to happen. But the biggest thing for me is I never felt this found family aspect that this book really was trying to sell us on. I think if you do feel that way in this book, you really, appreciate this book. But I never really cared about any of the characters and what was going on. So when things unravel, I'm just like, wish I cared. Really, really wish I cared. The next book we have is Careering. So in this book, we are following 2 women. They are both at very pivotal moments in their career. One of them is younger and they're trying to get their footing. She's trying to get her footing. She's trying to see if she can make being a writer her career. And then the other woman we are following, she is older and she is hoping that she becomes editor-in-chief of this magazine. Well, both of them hit a standstill because the woman who's older, she's like, she wants to be editor-in-chief, but the people who are like head of her company, her magazine, go like, actually, we don't want you to be editor-in-chief. We want you to start your own like feminist imprint. And like, she believes this is their way of ushering her out. But then she finds an article that our young main character writes, and she's like, you would be perfect for this job. So she brings on our young main character to help her with this new feminist imprint. And these 2 ladies both learn things about themselves and their career and what they should do with their career and all of that. This book has a perfectly good message, and I really, really enjoyed the stuff about career and what, finding what you want to do and finding your purpose. The problem is there's no real plot in this book. There's no real plot. There's no real story. That's why I kind of had to cut off the synopsis, because there's no real plot. You're just like following these women. Things happen, things end, and there's the story. So I do give this book 3 out of 5 stars. Are we sensing a pattern, friends? Are we sensing a pattern where like everything is just like, been there, done that, messed around, bought the t-shirt, and let's go. Like, I just don't need to do it again. Like, everything is kind of like, I seen it. There's no more for me to see it. Now, I will say, let me not speak too soon. Yeah. The worst book that I read in May is The Writing Retreat. So this book is about a bunch of writers who go on a writing retreat. A very famous and prolific author invites 5 women. Are they all women? I think it invites 5 women to a writing retreat, and strange things begin to happen at this writing retreat. This book did not work for me in any way. The main character was not good, was not interesting. I think the story altogether becomes really uninteresting after the 100-page mark. When you get to the whodunit, I think it's executed poorly. When it comes to everyone's relationship to one another, I don't think that's executed really well. It's just not interesting. That is the best way I can describe this book. This book is just not interesting. It's not for me. It's not my type of thriller. I don't want to say it's boring because I can enjoy a boring thriller. I am the audience for boring thrillers. Like, I love domestic thrillers. So, like, I'm the audience for a good boring thriller. This book just doesn't have anything to sink your teeth into to me. I do not like this book. I'm going to give this book 1.5 stars. I'll give it 2, but it's leaning 1.5. No, not for me at all. The next book that we have is Alice's Island. In this book, we are following a woman named Alice. She gets news that her husband has died. And so she's like, oh, my husband died? And she finds out that her husband died in a very interesting place because she never knew her husband to take this route. And where she thought her husband was going was not the place that her husband was obviously going because he wouldn't be taking this route. So Alice uproots her entire family. She takes the $1 million insurance policy that she gets from her husband's death, and she decides to start a new life on this island that her husband was visiting when he died, and hopes she can find out what her husband was up to. I really enjoyed this book. This book is almost a psychological study. This book is a study on, I think, grief, a study on friendship. It's a study on marriage and relationships, and like asking the question, what do you owe people? What do people owe you? And when people who are close to you die, what is left after that? I enjoyed this book. This book was thoughtful to me. This book was deep. I had to search up, down, left, and right to get my own copy of this book because this is a library copy, but I finally got my hands on one. I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is definitely one of my favorite books that I read this last month, I guess, because we're already in June. Let's move on to something less lackluster. Avika and the Hollywood Wives. This book is following a woman named Avika. She is a bartender, and when she is working the bar, she is working the bar at an Oscars party. So the Oscars are going on. She's working the bar at an after party for the Oscars. She meets a guy who just won an Oscar. They're talking back and forth, and she realizes this man is 40 years older than her. But she's like, I like him, and before you know it, they are dating. Then before you know it, they are married. But things start to happen because a letter is left to her by one of his ex-wives, and she's like, I have money for you. You get to inherit some of my insurance policy, but you cannot get it until you divorce the husband, so her ex-husband and her current husband. Till you divorce him, you don't get the money. So she looks into why his ex-wife would want me to divorce my husband. And so that starts this story. No. I tried to get to the synopsis really quickly to tell you guys, no, this book is clunky. This Avika as a character is so bizarre. Doesn't make any sense, anything that she does. And so when you feel like your character is not warranted, like the stuff she's doing isn't warranted, doesn't make any sense, it's hard to care. And then everything that is interesting about this book quickly becomes uninteresting. I don't want to spoil anything, but like, there's nothing really villainous going on in this book. It's just like, okay, Avika's bizarre. And I think with a stronger character, and if Avika as a character made more sense, this book could have been a whole lot better. But you're reading the book and you're like, this doesn't feel real. That was my biggest critique. That's what it was. This book doesn't feel real. This book does not feel like this is something anyone would find themselves in. Even in the most outlandish of situations, this doesn't feel like a real story. It just really felt inauthentic, you know? It just felt made up, fugazi, like just not... No, not one for me. Not one for me. The next book we're gonna talk about some books I did not read in videos. I read a little smutty little thing. I read Brenda Jackson In Bed with Her Boss, but this also has a bonus book by Catherine Mann, and it is called, I don't know what it's called. I forgot what it's called. They don't have it on the front. It's a bonus book, but I read both of these books. One of them is about a woman who is an assistant, and she starts sleeping with her boss, and the boss has a dead ex-wife, so there's like issues there, and they're trying to figure out, can they be together? Should she sleep with her boss? Can he get over his dead his dead ex-wife? And so like that's what's going on there. Then in the other story, you have a politician, and basically they're like they're sleeping together, like just in like regular, like they're just sleeping together, but then her house burns down and he saves her from the burning building. And so people take pictures of them together, and because he's a politician, he's like, we should just fake date. So you get this fake dating scenario, and that's what goes on there. But I have no ratings. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about both of these. Like, I literally forgot I owned this. And I was like, what the hell is this? I'm just sitting there. And so I read it, and I thought I was just going to read a few pages, but I ended up reading the entire thing. And I was just like, okay, like it was a good afternoon well spent. Like, I don't know how to feel about them. It's like if you find it's something to read. It felt like reading something on Kindle. I do not know why I have this in hard copy, but I got to it, I read it, and it is what it is. That is that. The next book that I read was Vladimir. I finally finished Vladimir. I started this book, like I read the first 30 pages of this book months ago, but then so many things started to come at me and I never got to finish it, but I finally finished Vladimir. A lot of people, whenever I was reading this book, they'd be like, ooh, you're reading smut, girl. This is not smut. This is a literary fiction book. Vladimir just has his shirt off in this thing. So in this book, we are following a professor, a woman. She is a professor. Her husband is also a professor. Her husband has been accused of sexually assaulting women on the campus. So he is on leave until everything happens, with what is going to happen with his sexual assault accusations. And so she's still working. Now, she does not believe her husband has done anything wrong. She feels like the girls at the school wanted to sleep with him. Yes, it was a power thing, but they wanted to be in proximity to him. So she's dealing with all of that. She's not really in love with her husband anymore. She don't like her husband anymore. But the whole reason why this is called Vladimir is because she has fallen obsessed with one of the teachers at this college. There is a young teacher at the school, and she has become obsessed with him, and she has made it her mission to get this young man. He's not that young, but he's older. He's younger than her. He's like 40, and she's like almost 60. So like that's why it is. And she wants him to fall in love with her. She believes that they can be together. She's gonna get her groove back. So in this, we are following her trying to get with Vladimir. This book has a lot of interesting things to say. This book is so bizarre because at moments, I felt it was cheap. It was obvious. This book didn't have anything interesting to say. Like, I knew exactly what it was trying to do. It was trying to tell a tale about a woman who her entire life, she has seen herself through the patriarchal lens. She has seen herself as only valuable if she is valuable to men. And so she's now dealing with being on the other side of youth and thinking she no longer is valuable because the only thing men who are powerful find valuable in women is beauty and youth. And so she's trying to figure out how her life will be being on the other side of that and trying to reclaim power, but reclaim that power in the wrong ways because she still has internalized misogyny on the brain, right? And so it's like, that's obvious. Like, I get what this book is trying to do. And so I'm just like, I'm not falling for it, right? I think some of the writing is too long. This book is very self-indulgent. Julia May Jonas, she knows that she is a very brilliant writer. And so like, self-indulgent, wordy. And I was just like, okay. But then in the mess of it all, I found some things to be quite interesting. I couldn't put it down. I could not. I marathoned this entire book in 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I found something beautiful in the chaos. And in the character, even though ridiculous, I was like, there's something interesting here. And I couldn't put my finger on it, and I still don't think I can. So I am going to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, it's something I have to revisit. I have to revisit this book. Yeah, I have to revisit this book. Disorientation. Check mark. This is one of the books I wanted to read for my reading challenge. Chantel's reading challenge. Yeah, I read it. Disorientation. This book is about an Asian American woman who is trying to write her dissertation. Because this is called disorientation, the words get confusing. She's trying to write her dissertation for a PhD program, but she's struggling. And so one day she gets a note. She gets a note, and it has her believe that everything she thought she was writing her dissertation on is a lie. And so she goes in and she tries to investigate that. And through investigating that, it leads her on this journey of self-identity and this journey of what it means to be an Asian woman in America, what it means to be a person of color in America, and how she sees herself and how she allows other people to perceive her. This is an interesting one because at times, once again, like Vladimir, I thought this book had some interesting things to say, and I thought the plot was really interesting. I thought this book had interesting commentary on people who find themselves in white spaces when they're a person of color, and how people who are frequently in white spaces, how they assimilate. I thought there was interesting things to say about how when people who date white people or are friends with white people, they often crack jokes on themselves first, so other people won't crack the jokes first. So they'll laugh at the racism because, like, if I laugh at it, then it can't affect me, but it really is affecting them. I thought it had interesting things to say about that. It was interesting to see a character who has internalized all the racist things that is said about her, and someone who is confronting all of their preferences and why all their friends are white. Why do they date only white people? Confronting what's the truth under that. How do you feel about yourself? How do you allow yourself to be fetishized? And how do you see yourself? Interesting things there. But also in this book is like Your Driver is Waiting, where it's not decisive enough for me. This book says a lot of nothing. I am a person, I understand some people like the ambiguity when it comes to books, and they enjoy kind of like the you choose your own path, you choose what to take from this. But I don't like it when books bring up, hot button topics, the topics that everyone is talking about, and it brings up every single side of the argument, but never really makes a decision on which one is right and which one is wrong. Not because they're trying to say like everyone's wrong, more so because they're afraid to choose. That's what I don't like about books. I can respect a book that's like everyone's fucking wrong. Everyone is a little bit wrong and everyone is a little bit right. I can respect that. That's your decision. I don't like it when it brings up the topics. It wants you to applaud it for having the deep conversations, but it doesn't do anything interesting with those topics. It doesn't try to say anything interesting about those topics. It doesn't try to bring any nuance to those topics. So it just feels like those topics are cheaply brought up, and I'm not taking anything from it. And that's what this book did. It brought up the topics, but it didn't feel like the author had anything of their own opinions to bring towards those topics. So it just felt indecisive. That's what this book felt. It felt indecisive, just like Your Driver is Waiting. Like, you brought up the hot button. It's not the terminology, the hot button topics. You brought them up, but you didn't do anything with them. You didn't say anything interesting about them. And then our main character here, though she is the one who's going through all of this, you never feel like she learns anything. So this little schoolgirl outfit right there, she lets like her boyfriends have sex with her in these like schoolgirl outfits because they're fetishizing her. They're acting like she's like an Asian schoolgirl, like that. And so like it shows that like she has some deep issues, right? Allowing white men to fetishize her. But it never feels like she learns anything from that. It never feels like, okay, this character knows better. This character's learned. It feels like everyone around them is telling them how to feel and they're taking that in. It's just like, okay, I understand now, but it's like, do you really understand? And so I was just like, this book is talking about yellow face and black face and white people taking on people of color's identities and all of that. And it just like, it doesn't in any way have anything interesting to say about those topics, you know? Like, it's just indecisive. It shows you both sides of it, but one side is obviously wrong. You should not do yellow face. And so, it doesn't even have the guts to even say that at points, you know? And so I'm just like, it almost feels like you're treading water, carrying water, not really doing anything of significance, not wanting to rattle the table. And I'm sorry, we're here to rattle the table. If you're gonna bring up topics that are supposed to rattle the table, make that bitch shake. Even if I don't agree with you, at least make the bitch shake. At least have me think about something. But when you just give me every topic and then give me every viewpoint on that topic and be like, make your own choices. I could have did that my goddamn self. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Last two books, both 5 stars. How Beautiful We Were is about this fictionalized African village who has been taken over by oil companies. The head of their country has allowed American oil companies to come in and pollute their waters, pollute their air, and people are dying. So this African village, they decide to fight back. And in fighting back, they lose everything. That's what this book is about. This book is brilliant. This book is so brilliant. What I find the most brilliant about this book is what this book is saying about imperialism and how imperialism affects everyone. No one goes unscathed. No one goes unscathed in imperialism. In a video, I didn't talk about this, but this book also talks about how the people who are agents of these countries, like so soldiers and the people who work for these oil companies, even they don't become unscathed. White supremacy needs all hands on deck. All hands on deck to protect an idea. And I thought this book was absolutely brilliant. 5 out of 5 stars. My books are falling, child. Jojo Moyes, Someone Else's Shoes. This book is probably the most surprising book I've read this year. Didn't expect a lot out of it, but in this book, we have characters. They switch gym bags, and in switching gym bags, both of their lives get turned upside down. So we follow both of these women as they switch gym bags and what spirals from them switching gym bags. You have one woman who is very affluent. She has an amazing life, but something is happening in her marriage. You have another woman who has a terrible life. Well, she's just poor. She's poor, but you know, she has kids and she doesn't know how she's going to make ends meet. And something is happening in her marriage too. So they're both at crossroads in their personal life. And this bag and them switching bags puts both of their lives in motion in ways they did not expect. This book is a lot of fun. It's chick-litty in the best way. When I say chick-lit, I mean it with all admiration. I love chick-lit. I do not mean that word in there. I love books like this. Just women living. And I love this book. So 5 out of 5 stars. Those are the books that I read in May. Hopefully June will be a better reading month. I won't probably get a lot of reading done. I'm not doing the books. The books, they over there. Hopefully June will be a better reading month, but I am traveling in June, so I don't know how much I'll be able to read, but we'll see. Anyways, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.